the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Udyoga Parva. Section 31, C.I.E. Udyoga Parva. Yudhishthira said, O Sanjaya, the righteous and the unrighteous, the young and the old, the weak and the strong are all under the control of the Creator. It is that Supreme Lord who imparteth knowledge to the child and childishness to the learned, according to his own will. If Dhritarashtra ask thee about our strength, tell him everything truly, having cheerfully consulted with everyone here and ascertained the truth. O son of Gavalgana, repairing unto the Gurus thou wilt salute the mighty Dhritarashtra, and touching his feet enquire after his welfare, speaking in our name. And when seated in the midst of the Gurus, tell him from us. The sons of Pandu, O king, are living happily in consequence of thy prowess. It was through thy grace, O repressor of foes, that those children of tender years had obtained a kingdom. Having first bestowed a kingdom on them, thou shouldst not now be indifferent to them, for destruction then would overtake them. The whole of this kingdom, O Sanjaya, is not fit to be owned by one person. Tell him again from us, O sire, we wish to live united. Do not suffer thyself to be vanquished by force. Then shouldst again, O Sanjaya, bending thy head in my name, salute the grandsire of the Bharatas, Bhishma, the son of Santanu. Having saluted our grandsire, he should then be told by thee, when Santanu's race was about to be extinct, it was revived. Therefore, O sire, do that according to thy own judgment, by which thy grandsons may all live in amity with one another. Thou shouldst then address Vidura also, that adviser of the Gurus, saying, Counselled peace, O amiable one, from desire of doing good unto Yudhishthira. Thou shouldst address the unforbearing Prince Duryodhana also, when seated in the midst of the Gurus, beseeching him again and again, saying, The insults thou hadst offered to innocent and helpless Draupadi in the midst of the assembly, we will quietly bear, simply because we have no mind to see the Gurus slain. The other injuries also, both before and after that, the sons of Pandu are quietly bearing, although they are possessed of might to avenge them. All this indeed, the Kauravas know. O amiable one, thou hadst even exiled us dressed in deer skins. We are bearing that also because we do not want to see the Kurus slain. Dusasana, in obedience to thee, had dragged Krishna, disregarding Kunti. That act also will be forgiven by us. But, O chastiser of foes, we must have our proper share of the kingdom. O bull among men, turn thy coveting heart from what belongeth to others. Peace then, O king, will be amongst our gladdened selves. We are desirous of peace, give us even a single province of the empire. Give us even Kusasthala, Vrikasthala, Makandi, Varanavata, and for the fifth any other that thou likest. Even this will end the quarrel. O Suyodhana, give unto thy 5 brothers at least 5 villages. O Sanchava, O thou of great wisdom, let there be peace between us and our cousins. Tell him also, let brothers follow brothers, let sires unite with sons. Let the Panchalas mingle with the Kurus in merry laughter. That I may see the Kurus and the Panchalas whole and sound, is what I desire. O bull of the Bharata race, with cheerful hearts let us make peace. O Sanjaya, I am equally capable of war and peace. I am prepared to acquire wealth as well as to earn virtue. I am fit enough for severity as for softness. Thus ends the 31st section in the C.I.E. Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 32, C.I.E. Udyoga Parva. Vaisampayana said, dismissed with salutation by the Pandavas, Sanjaya set out for Hastinapura, having executed all the commands of the illustrious Dhritarashtra. Reaching Hastinapura, he quickly entered it and presented himself at the gate of the inner apartments of the palace. Addressing the porter, he said, "O gatekeeper, say unto Dhritarashtra that I, Sanjaya, have just arrived, coming from the sons of Pandu. Do not delay. If the king be awake, then only shouldst thou say so, O keeper, for I like to enter having first apprised him of my arrival. In the present instance I have something of very great importance to communicate." Hearing this, the gatekeeper went to the king and addressed him, saying, "O Lord of earth, I bow to thee. Sanjaya is at thy gates, desirous of seeing thee. He cometh bearing a message from the Pandavas. Issue your commands, O king, as to what he should do." The king said, "Tell Sanjaya that I am happy and hale. Let him enter. Welcome to Sanjaya. I am always ready to receive him. Why should he stay outside whose admission is never forbidden?" Vaisampayana continued, "Then, with the king's permission, having entered that spacious apartment, the Suta's son with joined hands, approached the royal son of Vichitravirya, who was protected by many wise, valiant, and righteous persons, and who was then seated on his throne. And Sanjaya addressed him saying, "I am Sanjaya, O king. I bow unto thee. O chief of men." Proceeding hence I found the sons of Pandu. After having paid his salutations to thee, Pandu's son, the intelligent Yudhishthira, enquired of thy welfare. And well pleased, he also enquired after thy sons and asketh thee whether thou art happy with thy sons and grandsons and friends and counsellors, and O king, all those that depend upon thee. Dhritarashtra said, "O child, giving my blessings to Ajatasattu, I ask thee, O Sanjaya, whether that king of the Kauravas, Pritha's son, is well with his sons and brothers and counsellors." Sanjaya said, "Pandu's son is well with his counsellors. He desires possessions of that which he formerly had as his own. He seeketh virtue and wealth without doing anything that is censurable, possesseth intelligence and vast learning, and is besides far-sighted and of excellent disposition. With that son of Pandu, abstention from injury is even superior to virtue, and virtue superior to the accumulation of wealth. His mind, O Bharata, is always inclined to happiness and joy, and to such course of action as are virtuous and conducive to the higher ends of life. Even like doll pulled this way and that by threads, man in this world moveth swayed by a force not his own. Beholding the sufferings of Yudhishthira, I regard the force of destiny to be superior to the effect of human exertion. Beholding again thy unworthy deeds which, besides being highly sinful and unspeakable, are sure to terminate in misery, and it seemeth to me that one of thy nature winneth praise only so long as his able forbideth his time. Renouncing all sin, even as a serpent casteth off its worn-out slough which it cannot any longer retain, the heroic Ajatasattu shineth in his natural perfection, leaving his load of sins to be borne by thee. Consider, O king, thy own acts which are contrary to both religion and profit, and to the behavior of those that are righteous. Thou hast, O king, earned a bad repute in this world, and wilt reap misery in the next. Obeying the counsels of thy son, thou hopest to enjoy this doubtful property, keeping them aloof. This unrighteous deed is loudly bruited about in the world. Therefore, O foremost of the Bharatas, this deed is unworthy of thee. Calamity overtaketh him who is deficient in wisdom, or who is of low birth, or who is cruel, or who cherisheth hostility for a long time, or who is not steady in Kshatriya virtues, or is devoid of energy, or is of a bad disposition, in fact, him who hath such marks. It is by virtue of luck that a person taketh his birth in a good race, or becometh strong, or famous, or versed in various lore, or possesseth the comforts of life, or becometh capable of subduing his senses, or discriminating virtue and vice that are always linked together. What person is there who, attended upon by foremost of counselors, possessed of intelligence, capable of discriminating between virtue and vice in times of distress, not destitute of the rituals of religion, and retaining the use of all his faculties, would commit cruel deeds. These counselors, ever devoted to thy work, wait here united together. Even this is their firm determination, viz., that the Pandavas are not to get back their share. The destruction of the Kurus, therefore, is certain to be brought about by the force of circumstances. If provoked by the offences, Yudhishthira wisheth for misery to thee, then Kurus will be destroyed prematurely, while imparting all his sins to thee, the blame of that deed will be thine. In this world, indeed, what else is there save the will of the gods? For Arjuna, the son of Pritha, leaving this world ascended to the very heavens and was honoured there very greatly. This proves that individual exertion is nothing. There is no doubt as to this. Seeing that the attributes of high birth, bravery, etc. depended for their development or otherwise on acts, and beholding also prosperity and adversity and stability and instability, in persons and their possessions, King Vali in his search after causes, having failed to discover a beginning in the chain of acts of former lives one before another, regarded the eternal essence to be the cause of everything. The eye, the ear, the nose, the touch, and the tongue. These are the doors of a person's knowledge. If desire be curbed, these would be gratified themselves. Therefore, cheerfully and without repining one should control the senses. Others there are that think differently. They hold that if a person's acts are well applied, these must produce the desired result. Thus the child begot by the act of the mother and the father grows when duly tended with food and drink. Men in this world become subject to love and hate, pleasure and pain, praise and blame. A man is praised when he behaves honestly. The I blame, since these dissension of the Bharatas, whose root them art, will surely bring about the destruction of innumerable lives. If peace be not concluded, then through thy fault Arjuna will consume the Kurus like a blazing fire consuming a heap of dried grass. O ruler of men, thou alone of all the world, yielding to thy son whom no restraints can bind, hadst regarded thyself as crowned with success and abstained from avoiding dispute at the time of the match at dice. Behold now the fruit of that weakness of thine. O monarch, by rejecting advisers that are faithful and accepting those that deserve no confidence, this extensive and prosperous empire, O son of Kuru, thou art unable to retain, owing to thy weakness. Wearied by my fast journey and very much fatigued, I solicit thy permission to go to bed now. O lion of men, for tomorrow morning will the Kurus, assembled together in the council hall, hear the words of Ajatasatru. Thus ends the 32nd section in the C.I.E. Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 33, C.I.E. Udyoga Parva. Vaisampayana said, King Dhritarashtra, endued with great wisdom, then said to the orderly in waiting, I desire to see Vidura. Bring him here without delay. Dispatched by Dhritarashtra, the messenger went to Kshatri and said, O thou of great wisdom, our lord the mighty king desireth to see thee. Thus addressed, Vidura set out. And coming to the palace, spoke Anro the orderly. Apprise Dhritarashtra of my arrival. Thereupon the orderly went to Dhritarashtra, and said, O foremost of kings, Vidura is here at thy command. He wisheth to behold thy feet. Command me as to what he is to do. Thereupon Dhritarashtra said, Let Vidura of great wisdom and foresight enter. I am never unwilling or unprepared to see Vidura. The orderly then went out and spoke unto Vidura, O Kshatri, enter the inner apartments of the wise king. The king says that he is never unwilling to see thee. Vaisampayana continued, having entered Dhritarashtra's chamber, Vidura said with joined hands unto that ruler of men who was then plunged in thought, O thou of great wisdom, I am Vidura, arrived here at thy command. If there is anything to be done, here I am, command me. Dhritarashtra said, O Vidura, Sanjaya hath come back. He hath gone away after rebuking me. Tomorrow he will deliver, in the midst of the court, Ajasatru's message. I have not been able today to ascertain what the message is of the Kuru hero. Therefore my body is burning, and that hath produced sleeplessness. Tell us what may be good for a person that is sleepless and burning. Thou art, O child, versed in both religion and profit. Ever since Sanjaya hath returned from the Pandavas, my heart knoweth no peace. Filled with anxiety about what he may deliver, all my senses have been disordered. Vidura said, sleeplessness overtaketh a thief, or a lustful person, him that hath lost all his wealth, him that hath failed to achieve success, and him also that is weak and hath been attacked by a strong person. I hope, O king, that none of these grave calamities have overtaken thee. I hope thou dost not grieve coveting the wealth of others. Dhritarashtra said, I desire to hear from thee words that are beneficial and fraught with high morality. In this race of royal rishis thou alone art reverenced by the wise. Vidura replied, King Yudhishthira, graced with every virtue, is worthy of being the sovereign of the three worlds. Yet O Dhritarashtra, however worthy of being kept by thy side, he was exiled by thee. Thou art however possessed of qualities which are thy very reverse of those possessed by him. Although virtuous and versed in morality, thou hast yet no right to a share in the kingdom, owing to thy loss of sight. In consequence of his inoffensiveness and kindness, his righteousness, love of truth and energy, and his remembering the reverence that is due to thee, Yudhishthira patiently bears innumerable wrongs. Having bestowed on Duryodhana and Suvala's son and Karna, and Dusasana the management of the empire, how canst thou hope for prosperity? He that is not served from the high ends of life by the aid of self-knowledge, exertion, forbearance and steadiness in virtue, is called wise. These again are the marks of a wise man, viz., adherence to acts worthy of praise and rejection of what is blamable, faith, and reverence. He whom neither anger nor joy, nor pride, nor false modesty, nor stupefaction, nor vanity, can draw away from the high ends of life, is considered as wise. He whose intended acts and proposed counsels remain concealed from foes, and whose acts become known only after they have been done, is considered wise. He whose purposed actions are never obstructed by heat or cold, fear or attachment, prosperity or adversity, is considered wise. He whose judgment dissociated from desire, followeth both virtue and profit, and who disregarding pleasure chooseth such ends as are serviceable in both worlds, is considered wise. They that exert to the best of their might, and act also to the best of their might, and disregard nothing as insignificant, are called wise. He that understandeth quickly, listeneth patiently, pursueth his objects with judgment and not from desire, and spendeth not his breath on the affairs of others without being asked, is said to possess the foremost mark of wisdom. They that do not strive for objects that are unattainable, that do not grieve for what is lost and gone, that do not suffer their minds to be clouded amid calamities, are regarded to possess intellects endued with wisdom. He who striveth, having commenced anything, till it is completed, who never wasteth his time, and who hath his soul under control, is regarded wise. They that are wise, O bull of the Bharata race, always delight in honest deeds, and do what tendeth to their happiness and prosperity, and never sneer at what is good. He who exulteth not at honours, and grieveth not at slights, and remaineth cool and unagitated like a lake in the course of Ganga, is reckoned as wise. That man who knoweth the nature of all creatures, viz., that everything is subject to destruction, who is cognizant also of the connections of all acts, and who is proficient in the knowledge of the means that men may resort to for attaining their objects, is reckoned as wise. He who speaketh boldly, can converse on various subjects, knoweth the science of argumentation, possesseth genius, and can interpret the meaning of what is written in books, is reckoned as wise. He whose studies are regulated by reason, and whose reason followeth the scriptures, and who never abstaineth from paying respect to those that are good, is called a wise man. He, on the other hand, who is ignorant of scripture yet vain, poor yet proud, and who resorteth to unfair means for the acquisition of his objects, is a fool. He who, forsaking his own, concerneth himself with the objects of others, and who practiseth deceitful means for serving his friends, is called a fool. He who wisheth for those things that should not be desired, and forsaketh those that may legitimately be desired, and who beareth malice to those that are powerful, is regarded to be a foolish soul. He who regardeth his foe as his friend, who hateth and beareth malice to his friend, and who committeth wicked deeds, is said to be a person of foolish soul. O bull of the Bharata race, he who divulgeth his projects, doubteth in all things, and spendeth a long time in doing what requireth a short time, is a fool. He who doth not perform the Shraddha for the Pitris, nor worshippeth the deities, nor acquireth noble-minded friends, is said to be a person of foolish soul. That worst of men who entereth a place uninvited and talketh much without being asked, and reposeth trust on untrustworthy wights, is a fool. That man who being himself guilty casteth the blame on others, and who though impotent giveth vent to anger, is the most foolish of men. That man who, without knowing his own strength and dissociated from both virtue and profit, desireth an object difficult of acquisition, without again adopting adequate means, is said to be destitute of intelligence. O king, he who punisheth one that is undeserving of punishment, payeth homage to persons without their knowledge, and waiteth upon misers, is said to be of little sense. But he that, having attained immense wealth and prosperity or acquired vast learning, doth not bear himself haughtily, is reckoned as wise. Who again is more heartless than he who, though possessed of affluence, eateth himself and weareth excellent robes himself, without distributing his wealth among his dependents? While one person committeth sins, many reap the advantage resulting therefrom. Yet in the end it is the doer alone to whom the sin attacheth, while those that enjoy the fruit escape unhurt. When a bowman shooteth an arrow, he may or may not succeed in slaying even a single person, but when an intelligent individual applieth his intelligence viciously, it may destroy an entire kingdom with the king. Discriminating the two by means of the one, bring under thy subjection the three by means of four, and also conquering the five and knowing the six, and abstaining from the seven, be happy. Poison slayeth but one person, and a weapon also but one. Wicked counsel, however, destroys an entire kingdom with king and subjects. Alone one should not partake of any savory viand, nor alone reflect on concerns of profit, nor alone go upon a journey, nor alone remain awake among sleeping companions. That being who is one without a second, and whom, O king, thou hast not been able to comprehend, is truth's self and the way to heaven, even like a boat in the ocean. There is one only defect in forgiving persons, and not another. That defect is that people take a forgiving person to be weak. That defect, however, should not be taken into consideration, for forgiveness is a great power. Forgiveness is a virtue of the weak, and an ornament of the strong. Forgiveness subdueth all in this world. What is there that forgiveness cannot achieve? What can a wicked person do unto him who carrieth the sabre of forgiveness in his hand? Fire falling on a grassless ground is extinguished of itself. An unforgiving individual defileth himself with many enormities. Righteousness is the one highest good, and forgiveness is the one supreme peace, knowledge is one's supreme contentment, and benevolence, one's sole happiness. Even as a serpent devoureth animals living in holes, the earth devoureth these two, viz., a king who is incompetent to fight, and a Brahmana who doth not sojourn to holy places. A man may attain renown in this world by doing two things, viz., by refraining from harsh speech, and by disregarding those that are wicked. O tiger among men, these two have not a will of their own, viz., those women who covet men simply because the latter are coveted by others of their sex, and that person who worships another simply because the latter is worshipped by others. These two are like sharp thorns afflicting the body, viz., the desires of a poor man, and the anger of the impotent. These two persons never shine because of their incompatible acts, viz., a householder without exertion, and a beggar busied in schemes. These two, O king, live as it were, in a region higher than heaven itself, viz., a man of power endued with forgiveness and poor man that is charitable. Of things honestly got, these two must be looked upon as misuse, viz., making gifts to the unworthy and refusing the worthy. These two should be thrown into the water, tightly binding weights to their necks, viz., a wealthy man that doth not give away, and a poor man that is proud. These two, O tiger among men, can pierce the orbit self of the sun, viz., a mendicant accomplished in yoga, and a warrior that hath fallen in open fight. O bull of the Bharata race, persons versed in the Veds have said that men's means are good, middling, and bad. Men also, O king, are good, indifferent, and bad. They should therefore be respectively employed in that kind of work for which they may be fit. These three, O king, cannot have wealth of their own, viz., the wife, the slave, and the son, and whatever may be earned by them would be his to whom they belong. Great fear springeth from these three crimes, viz., theft of others' property, outrage on others' wives, and breach with friends. These three, besides being destructive to one's own self, are the gates of hell, viz., lust, anger, and covetousness. Therefore, everyone should renounce them. These three should never be forsaken even in imminent danger, viz., a follower, one who seeks protection saying, I am thine, and lastly, one who hath come to your abode. Verily, O Bharata, liberating a foe from distress, alone amounteth in point of merit, to these three taken together, viz., conferring a boon, acquiring a kingdom, and obtaining a son. Learned men have declared that a king, although powerful, should never consult with these four, viz., men of small sense, men that are procrastinating, men that are indolent, and men that are flatterers. O sire, crowned with prosperity and leading the life of a householder, let these four dwell with thee, viz., old consanguineous, relatives, high-born persons fallen into adversity, poor friends, and issueless sisters. On being asked by the chief of the celestials, Vrihaspati, O mighty king, declared four things capable of fructifying or occurring within a single day, viz., the resolve of the gods, the comprehensions of intelligent persons, the humility of learned men, and the destruction of the sinful. These four that are calculated to remove fear, bring on fear when they are improperly performed, viz., the Agnihotra, the vow of silence, study, and sacrifice, in general. O bull of the Bharata race, these five fires should be worshipped with regard by a person, viz., father, mother, fire proper, soul, and preceptor. By serving these five, men attain great fame in this world, viz., the gods, the P3s, men, beggars, and guests. These five follow thee wherever thou goest, viz., friends, foes, those that are indifferent, dependents, and those that are entitled to maintenance. Of the five senses beholding to man, if one springeth a leak, then from that single hole runneth out all his intelligence, even like water running out from a perforated leathern vessel. The 6 faults should be avoided by a person who wisheth to attain prosperity, viz., sleep, drowsiness, fear, anger, indolence and procrastination. These 6 should be renounced like a splitting vessel in the sea, viz., a preceptor that cannot expound the scriptures, a priest that is illiterate, a king that is unable to protect, a wife that speaketh disagreeable words, a cowherd that doth not wish to go to the fields, and a barber that wisheth to renounce a village for the woods. Verily, those 6 qualities should never be forsaken by men, viz., truth, charity, diligence, benevolence, forgiveness, and patience. These 6 are instantly destroyed if neglected, viz., kin, service, agriculture, a wife, learning, and the wealth of a Sudra. These 6 forget those who have bestowed obligations on them, viz., educated disciples, their preceptors, married persons, their mothers, persons whose desires have been gratified, women, they who have achieved success, they who had rendered aid, they who have crossed a river, the boat that carried them over, and patients that have been cured, their physicians. Health, unindebtedness, living at home, companionship with good men, certainty as regards the means of livelihood, and living without fear, these 6, O king, conduce to the happiness of men. These 6 are always miserable, viz., the envious, the malicious, the discontented, the irascible, the ever suspicious, and those depending upon the fortunes of others. These 6, O king, comprise the happiness of men, viz., acquirement of wealth, uninterrupted health, a beloved and a sweet-speeched wife, an obedient son, and knowledge that is lucrative. He that succeedeth in gaining the mastery over the 6 that are always present in the human heart, being thus the master of his senses, never committeth sin, and therefore suffereth calamity. These 6 may be seen to subsist upon other 6, viz., thieves upon persons that are careless, physicians on persons that are ailing, women, upon persons suffering from lust, priests, upon them that sacrifice, a king, upon persons that quarrel, and lastly, men of learning, upon them that are without it. A king should renounce these 7 faults that are productive of calamity, inasmuch as they are able to effect the ruin of even monarchs firmly established. These are women, dice, hunting, drinking, harshness of speech, severity of punishment, and misuse of wealth. These 8 are the immediate indications of a man destined to destruction, viz., hating the Brahmanas, disputes with Brahmanas, appropriation of a Brahmana's possessions, taking the life of Brahmana, taking a pleasure in reviling Brahmanas, grieving to hear the praises of Brahmanas, forgetting them on ceremonious occasion, and giving vent to spite when they ask for anything. These transgressions a wise man should understand, and understanding, eschew. These 8, O Bharata, are the very cream of happiness, and these only are attainable here, viz., meeting with friends, accession of immense wealth, embracing a son, union for intercourse, conversation with friends in proper times, the advancement of persons belonging to one's own party, the acquisition of what had been anticipated, and respect in society. These 8 qualities glorify a man, viz., wisdom, high birth, self-restraint, learning, prowess, moderation in speech, gift according to one's power, and gratitude. This house hath 9 doors, 3 pillars, and 5 witnesses. It is presided over by the soul. That learned man who knoweth all this is truly wise. O Dhritarashtra, these 10 do not know what virtue is, viz., the intoxicated, the inattentive, the raving, the fatigued, the angry, the starving, the hasty, the covetous, the frightened, and the lustful. Therefore he that is wise must eschew the company of these. In this connection is cited the old story about what transpired between Suryodhana and Prahlada, the chief of the Asuras, in relation to the latter's son. That king who renounceth lust and anger, who bestoweth wealth upon proper recipients, and is discriminating, learned, and active, is regarded as an authority of all men. Great prosperity attends upon that king who knoweth how to inspire confidence in others, who inflicteth punishment on those whose guilt hath been proved, who is acquainted with the proper measure of punishment, and who knoweth when mercy is to be shown. He is a wise person who doth not disregard even a weak foe, who proceeds with intelligence in a respect of a foe, anxiously watching for an opportunity, who doth not desire hostilities with persons stronger than himself, and who displayeth his prowess in season. That illustrious person who doth not grieve when a calamity hath already come upon him, who exerteth with all his senses collected, and who patiently beareth misery in season, is certainly the foremost of persons, and all his foes are vanquished. He who doth not live away from hope uselessly, who doth not make friends with sinful persons, who never outrageth another's wife, who never betrayeth arrogance, and who never committeth a theft or showeth ingratitude or indulgeth in drinking, is always happy. He who never boastfully striveth to attain the three objects of human pursuit, who when asked, telleth the truth, who quarrelleth not even for the sake of friends, and who never becometh angry though slighted, is reckoned as wise. He who beareth not malice towards others but is kind to all, who, being weak, disputeth not with others, who speaketh not arrogantly, and forgetteth a quarrel, is praised everywhere. That man who never assumeth a haughty mind, who never censureth others praising himself the while, and never addresseth harsh words to others forgetting himself, is ever loved by all. He who raketh not up old hostilities, who behaved neither arrogantly nor with too much humility, and who even when distressed never committeth an improper act, is considered by respectable men a person of good conduct. He who exulteth not at his own happiness, nor delighteth in another's misery, and who repenteth not after having made a gift, is said to be a man of good nature and conduct. He who desireth to obtain a knowledge of the customs of different countries, and also the languages of different nations, and of the usages of different orders of men, knoweth at once all that is high and low, and wherever he may go he is sure to gain an ascendancy over even those that are glad. The intelligent man who relinquished pride, folly, insolence, sinful acts, disloyalty towards the king, crookedness of behavior, enmity with many, and also quarrels with men that are drunk, mad and wicked, is the foremost of his species. The very gods bestow prosperity upon him who daily practiseth self-restraint, purification, auspicious rites, worship of the gods, expiatory ceremonies, and other rites of universal observance. The acts of that learned man are well conceived, and well applied, who formeth matrimonial alliances with persons of equal position and not with those that are inferior, who placed those before him that are more qualified, and who talketh, behaveth and maketh friendships with persons of equal position. He who eateth frugally after dividing the food amongst his dependents, who sleepeth little after working much, and who when solicited giveth away even unto his foes, hath his soul under control, and calamities always keep themselves aloof from him. He whose counsels are well kept and well carried out into practice, and whose acts in consequence thereof are never known by others to injure men, succeedeth in securing even his most trifling objects. He who is intent upon abstaining from injury to all creatures, who is truthful, gentle, charitable, and pure in mind, shineth greatly among his kinsmen like a precious gem of the purest ray, having its origin in an excellent mine. That man who feeleth shame even though his faults be not known to any save himself, is highly honored among all men. Possessed of a pure heart and boundless energy and abstracted within himself, he shineth in consequence of his energy like the very sun. King Pandu, consumed by a Brahmana's curse, had 5 sons born unto him in the woods that are like 5 Indras. O son of Ambika! Thou hast brought up those children and taught them everything. They are obedient to thy commands. Giving them back their just share of the kingdom, O sire, filled with joy be thou happy with thy sons. Then, O monarch, thou shalt inspire confidence in both the gods and men. Thus ends the 33rd section in the C.I.E. Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 34, C.I.E. Udyoga Parva. Dhritarashtra said, Tell me what may be done by a person that is sleepless and burning with anxieties, for thou alone amongst us, O child, art versed in both religion and profit. Advise me wisely, O Vidura. O thou of magnanimous heart, tell me what is thou deemest to be beneficial for Ajatasatru and what is productive of good to the Kurus. Apprehending future evils, I look back only on my previous guilt. I ask thee with anxious heart, O learned one, tell me what is exactly in Ajatasatru's mind. Vidura said, Even if unasked, one should speak truly, whether his words be good or bad, hateful or pleasing, unto him whose defeat one doth not wish. I shall therefore say, O king, what is for the good of the Kurus. I shall say what is both beneficial and consistent with morality. Listen to me. Do not, O Bharata, set the heart upon means of success that are unjust and improper. A man of intelligence must not grieve if any purpose of his doth not succeed, notwithstanding the application of fair and proper means. Before one engageth in an act, one should consider the competence of the agent, the nature of the act itself, and its purpose, for all acts are dependent on these. Considering these, one should begin an act, and not take it upon a sudden impulse. He that is wise should either do an act or desist from it, fully considering his own ability, the nature of the act, and the consequence also of success. The king who knoweth not proportion or measure as regards territory, gain, loss, treasury, population, and punishment, cannot retain his kingdom long. He, on the other hand, who is acquainted with the measures of these as prescribed in treatises, being necessarily possessed of the knowledge of religion and profit, can retain his kingdom. As the stars are affected by the planets, so is this world affected by the senses, when they are directed, uncontrolled, to their respective objects. Like the moon during the lighted fortnight, calamities increase in respect of him who is vanquished by the 5 senses in their natural state, whichever lead him towards various acts. He who wisheth to control his counsellors before controlling his own self, or to subdue his adversaries before controlling his counsellors, at last succumbs, deprived of strength. He therefore who first subdueth his own self, regarding it as a foe, never faileth to subdue his counsellors and adversaries at last. Great prosperity waiteth upon him who hath subdued his senses, or controlled his soul, or who is capable of punishing all offenders, or who acteth with judgment, or who is blessed with patience. One's body, O king, is one's car. The soul within is the driver, and the senses are its steeds. Drawn by those excellent steeds when well trained, he that is wise, pleasantly performeth the journey of life and awake in peace. The horses that are unbroken and incapable of being controlled always lead an unskillful driver to destruction in the course of the journey. So one's senses, unsubdued, lead only to destruction. The inexperienced wight who, led by his unsubdued senses, hopeth to extract evil from good and good from evil, necessarily confoundeth misery with happiness. He who, forsaking religion and profit, followeth the lead of his senses, loseth without delay prosperity, life, wealth and wife. He who is the master of riches but not of his senses, certainly loseth his riches in consequence of his want of mastery over his senses. One should seek to know one's self by means of one's own self, controlling one's mind, intellect, and senses, for one's self is one's friend as indeed it is one's own foe. That man who hath conquered self by means of self, hath his self for a friend, for one's self is ever one's friend or foe. Desire and anger, O king, break through wisdom, just as a large fish breaks through a net of thin cords. He who in this world regarding both religion and profit, seeketh to acquire the means of success, winneth happiness, possessing all he had sought. He who without subduing his 5 inner foes of mental origin, wisheth to vanquish their adversaries, is in fact overpowered by the latter. It is seen that many evil-minded kings, owing to want of mastery over their senses, are ruined by acts of their own, occasioned by the lust of territory. As fuel that is wet burneth with that which is dry, so a sinless man is punished equally with the sinful in consequence of constant association with the latter. Therefore, friendship with the sinful should be avoided. He that, from ignorance, faileth to control his 5 greedy foes, having 5 distinct objects, is overwhelmed by calamities. Guilelessness and simplicity, purity and contentment, sweetness of speech and self-restraint, truth and steadiness, these are never the attributes of the wicked. Self-knowledge and steadiness, patience and devotion to virtue, competence to keep counsels and charity, these, O Bharata, never exist in inferior men. Fools seek to injure the wise by false reproaches and evil speeches. The consequence is, that by this they take upon themselves the sins of the wise while the latter, freed from their sins, are forgiven. In malice lieth the strength of the wicked, in criminal code, the strength of kings, in attentions of the weak and of women, and in forgiveness that of the virtuous. To control speech, O king, is said to be most difficult. It is not easy to hold a long conversation uttering words full of meaning and delightful to the hearers. Well-spoken speech is productive of many beneficial results, and ill-spoken speech, O king, is the cause of evils. A forest pierced by arrows or cut down by hatchets may again grow. But one's heart wounded and censured by ill-spoken words never recovereth. Weapons such as arrows, bullets, and bearded darts, can be easily extracted from the body, but a wordy dagger plunged deep into the heart is incapable of being taken out. Wordy arrows are shot from the mouth, smitten by them one grieveth day and night. A learned man should not discharge such arrows, for do they not touch the very vitals of others? He, to whom the gods ordain defeat, hath his senses taken away, and it is for this that he stoopeth to ignoble deeds. When the intellect becometh dim and destruction is nigh, wrong, looking like right, firmly sticketh to the heart. Thou dost not clearly see it, O bull of the Bharata race, that clouded intellect hath now possessed thy sons in consequence of their hostility to the Pandavas. Endued with every auspicious mark and deserving to rule the 3 worlds, Yudhishthira is obedient to thy commands. Let him, O Dhritarashtra, rule the earth to the exclusion of all thy sons. Yudhishthira is the foremost of all thy heirs. Endued with energy and wisdom, and acquainted with the truths of religion and profit, Yudhishthira, that foremost of righteous men, heart hawking of kings, suffered much misery out of kindness and sympathy, in order to preserve thy reputation. Thus ends the 34th section in the C.I.E. Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 35, C.I.E. Udyoga Parva. Dhritarashtra said, O thou of great intelligence, tell me again words such as these, consistent with religion and profit. My thirst for hearing them is not quenched. What thou sayest is charming. Vidura said, ablution in all the holy places and kindness to all creatures. These 2 are equal. Perhaps kindness to all creatures surpasseth the former. O Master, show kindness unto all thy sons, for by that winning great fame in this world, thou wilt have heaven hereafter. As long as some man's good deeds are spoken of in this world, so long, O tiger among men, is he glorified in heaven? In this connection is cited an old story about the conversation between Virochana and Sudhanvan, both suitors for Kesini's hand. Once on a time, O king, there was a maiden of the name of Kesini, unrivaled for beauty. Moved by the desire of obtaining a good husband, she resolved to choose her lord in Swayamvara. Then one of the sons of Diti, Virochana by name, went to that spot desirous of obtaining the maiden. Beholding that chief of the Daityas, Kesini addressed him saying, "Are Brahmanas superior, O Virochana, or are the sons of Diti superior? And why also should not Sudhanvan sit on the sofa?" Virochana said, "Sprung from Prajapati himself, we, O Kesini, are the best and at the top of all creatures, and this world is ours without doubt. Who are the gods, and who are the Brahmanas?" Kesini said, "We will, O Virochana, stay here in this very pavilion. Sudhanvan will come here on the morrow and let me see both of you sitting together." Virochana said, "O amiable and timid girl, I will do what thou sayest. Thou wilt behold Sudhanvan and myself met together in the morning." Vidura continued, "When the night had passed away and the solar disk had risen, Sudhanvan, O best of kings, came to that place where, O master, Virochana was waiting with Kesini. And Sudhanvan saw there both Prahlada's son and Kesini. And beholding the Brahmana arrived, Kesini, O bull of the Bharata race, rising up from hers, offered him a seat, water to wash his feet, and arghya. And asked by Virochana to share his seat, Sudhanvan said, "O son of Prahlada, I touch thy excellent golden seat. I cannot however suffer myself to be regarded as thy equal, and sit on it with thee." Virochana said, "A piece of wooden plank, an animal skin, or a mat of grass or straw, these only, O Sudhanvan, are fit for thee. Thou deservest not however, the same seat with me." Sudhanvan said, "Father and son, Brahmanas of the same age and equal learning, 2 Kshatriyas, 2 Vaisyas, and 2 Sudras, can sit together on the same seat. Except these no others can sit together. Your father used to pay his regards to me, taking a seat lower than that occupied by me. Thou art a child, brought up in every luxury at home, and thou understandest nothing." Virochana said, "Staking all the gold, kin, horses, and every other kind of wealth that we have among the Asuras, let us, O Sudhanvan, ask them this question that are able to answer." Sudhanvan said, "Let alone your gold, kin, and heroes, O Virochana. Making our lives the forfeit, we will ask them this question that are competent." Virochana said, "Wagering our lives, where shall we go? I will not appear before any of the gods and never before any among men." Sudhanvan said, "Having wagered our lives, we will approach thy father, for he, Prahlada, will never say an untruth even for the sake of his son." Vidura continued. Having thus laid a wager, Virochana and Sudhanvan, both moved by rage, proceeded to that place where Prahlada was. And beholding them together, Prahlada said, "These two who had never before been companions, are now seen together coming hither by the same road, like 2 angry snakes. Have ye now become companions, ye who were never companions before? I ask thee, O Virochana, has there been friendship between thee and Sudhanvan?" Virochana said, "There is no friendship between me and Sudhanvan. On the other hand, we have both wagered our lives. O chief of the Asuras, I shall ask thee a question, do not answer it untruly." Prahlada said, "Let water and honey and curds be brought for Sudhanvan. Thou deservest our worship, O Brahmana. A white and fat cow is ready for thee." Sudhanvan said, "Water and honey and curds have been presented to me on my way hither. I shall ask thee a question, Prahlada. Answer it truly. Are Brahmanas superior, or is Virochana superior?" Prahlada said, "O Brahmana, this one is my only son. Thou also art present here in person. How can one like us answer a question about which ye two have quarrelled? Sudhanvan said, Give unto thy son thy kin and other precious wealth that thou mayst have, but O wise one, thou shouldst declare the truth when we two are disputing about it. Prahlada said, How doth that misuse of his tongue suffer, O Sudhanvan, who answereth not truly but falsely, a question that is put to him? I ask thee this. Sudhanvan said, The person that misuseth his tongue suffers like the deserted wife, who pineth at night, beholding her husband sleeping in the arms of a co-wife, like a person who hath lost a dice or who is weighed down with an unbearable load of anxieties. Such a man hath also to stay, starving outside the city gates, into which his admission is barred. Indeed, he that giveth false evidence is destined to always find his force. He that speaketh a lie on account of an animal, casteth down from heaven 5 of his sires of the ascending order. He that speaketh a lie on account of a cow casteth down from heaven 10 of his ancestors. A lie on account of a horse causeth the downfall of 100, and a lie on account of a human being, the downfall of 1,000 of one's sires of the ascending order. An untruth on account of gold ruineth the members of one's race both born and unborn, while an untruth for the sake of land ruineth everything. Therefore never speak an untruth for the sake of land. Prahlada said, Angiras is superior to myself, and Sudhanvan is superior to thee. O Virochana, mother also of Sudhanvan is superior to thy mother, therefore thou, O Virochana, hast been debated by Sudhanvan. This Sudhanvan is now the master of thy life. But O Sudhanvan, I wish that thou shouldst grant Virochana his life. Sudhanvan said, Since, O Prahlada, thou hast preferred virtue and hast not from temptation said an untruth, I grant thy son his life that is dear to thee. So here is thy son Virochana, O Prahlada, restored by me to thee. He shall however have to wash my feet in the presence of the maiden Kesini. Vidura continued, For these reasons, O King of Kings, it behoveth thee not to say an untruth for the sake of land. Saying an untruth from affection for thy son, O King, hasten not to destruction with all thy children and counsellors. The gods do not protect men taking up clubs in their hands after the manner of herdsmen. Unto those however they wish to protect, they grant intelligence. There is no doubt that one's objects meet with success in proportion to the attention he directs to righteousness and morality. The Veds never rescue from sin a deceitful person living by falsehood. On the other hand, they forsake him while he is on his deathbed, like newly fledged birds forsaking their nests. Drinking, quarrels, enmity with large numbers of men, all connections with connubial disputes and severance of relationship between husband and wife, internal dissensions, disloyalty to the king, these and all paths that are sinful, should, it is said, be avoided. A palmist, a thief turned into a merchant, a fowler, a physician, an enemy, a friend, and a minstrel, these 7 are incompetent as witnesses. An Agnihotra performed from motives of pride, abstention from speech practiced from similar motives, study and sacrifice from the same motives, these 4, of themselves innocent, become harmful when practiced unduly. One that setteth fire to a dwelling house, an administrator of poison, a pander, a vendor of the soma juice, a maker of arrows, an astrologer, one that injureth friends, an adulterer, one that causeth abortion, a violator of his preceptor's bed, a Brahmana addicted to drink, one that is sharp-speeched, a raker of old sores, an atheist, a reviler of the Veds, and taker of bribes, one whose investiture with the sacred thread has been delayed beyond the prescribed age, one that secretly slayeth cattle and one that slayeth him who prayeth for protection, these all are reckoned as equal in moral turpitude as the slayers of Brahmanas. Gold is tested by fire, a well-born person, by his deportment, an honest man, by his conduct. A brave man is tested during a season of panic, he that is self-controlled, in times of poverty, and friends and foes, in times of calamity and danger. Decrepitude destroyeth beauty, ambitious hopes, patience, death, life, envy, righteousness, anger, prosperity, companionship with the low, good behavior, lust, modesty, and pride, everything. Prosperity taketh its birth in good deeds, groweth in consequence of activity, driveth its roots deep in consequence of skill, and acquireth stability owing to self-control. Wisdom, good lineage, self-control, acquaintance with the scriptures, prowess, absence of garrulity, gift to the extent of one's power, and gratefulness, these 8 qualities shed a luster upon their possessor. But O sire, there is one endowment which alone can cause all these attributes to come together. The fact is, when the king honoreth a particular person, the royal favor can cause all these attributes to shed their luster on the favorite. Those 8, O king, in the world of men, are indications of heaven. Of the 8, mentioned below, 4 are inseparably connected with the good and 4 others are always followed by the good. The first 4 which are inseparably connected with the good are sacrifice, gift, study and asceticism, while the other 4 that are always followed by the good, are self-restraint, truth, simplicity, and abstention from injury to all. Sacrifice, study, charity, asceticism, truth, forgiveness, mercy, and contentment constitute the 8 different paths of righteousness. The first 4 of these may be practiced from motives of pride, but the last 4 can exist only in those that are truly noble. That is no assembly where there are no old men and they are not old who do not declare what morality is. That is not morality which is separated from truth, and that is not truth which is fraught with deceit. Truth, beauty, acquaintance with the scriptures, knowledge, high birth, good behavior, strength, wealth, bravery, and capacity for varied talk. These 10 are of heavenly origin. A sinful person by committing sin, is overtaken by evil consequences. A virtuous man by practicing virtue, reapeth great happiness. Therefore a man rigidly resolved should abstain from sin. Sin, repeatedly perpetrated, destroyeth intelligence, and the man who hath lost intelligence, repeatedly committeth sin. Virtue, repeatedly practiced, enhanceth intelligence, and the man whose intelligence hath increased, repeatedly practiseth virtue. The virtuous man, by practicing virtue, goeth to regions of blessedness. Therefore a man should, firmly resolved, practice virtue. He that is envious, he that injureth others deeply, he that is cruel, he that constantly quarrelleth, he that is deceitful, soon meeteth with great misery for practicing these sins. He that is not envious and is possessed of wisdom, by always doing what is good, never meeteth with great misery. On the other hand, he shineth everywhere. He that draweth wisdom from them that are wise, is really learned and wise. And he that is wise, by attending to both virtue and profit, succeedeth in attaining to happiness. Do that during the day which may enable thee to pass the night in happiness, and do that during 8 months of the year which may enable thee to pass the season of rains happily. Do that during youth which may ensure a happy old age, and do that during thy whole life here which may enable thee to live happily hereafter. The wise prize that food which is easily digested, that wife whose youth hath passed away, that hero who is victorious, and that ascetic whose efforts have been crowned with success. The gap that is sought to be filled by wealth acquired wrongfully, remaineth uncovered, while new ones appear in other places. The preceptor controlleth them whose souls are under their own control, the king controlleth persons that are wicked, while they that sin secretly have their controller in Yama, the son of Vivaswat. The greatness of rishis, of rivers, of river banks, of high-souled men, and the cause of woman's wickedness, cannot be ascertained. O king, he that is devoted to the worship of the Brahmanas, he that giveth away, he that behaved righteously towards his relatives, and the Kshatriya that behaved nobly, rule the earth forever. He that is possessed of bravery, he that is possessed of learning, and he that knows how to protect others, these three are always able to gather flowers of gold from the earth. Of acts, those accomplished by intelligence are first, those accomplished by the arms, second, those by the thighs, and those by bearing weights upon the head, are the very worst. Reposing the care of thy kingdom on Duryodhana, on Sakuni, on foolish Dusasana, and on Karna, how canst thou hope for prosperity? Possessed of every virtue, the Pandavas, O bull of the Bharata race, depend on thee as their father. Or repose thou on them as on thy sons. Thus ends the 35th section in the C.I.E. Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.